Hey everybody out there on the internets, welcome again to another edition of Give It a Shot, the Spotlight edition, where we look at just particular DVDs that I dig up and review, and as you see here with the shots, how much pain could it actually be? So today, we are looking at the 2009 reboot of a series known as Superbook. Superbook is originally a 1981 collaboration between Japanese animation houses and CBN, also known as the Christian Broadcasting Network. Most people are aware of that with Pat Robertson and the 700 Club, but that was one of the few times where they did something kind of cool. Because full disclosure, I come from a Christian upbringing, which if you've watched this channel for any length of time, you'd probably be dropping your jaw right now, but yes. And one of the first things that you learn in anybody's life who grew up, in a Christian home or a Christian church is they are constantly fed children's media that is Christian-based. And my church got copies of the original Superbook on VHS, and it's one of the very few that I would say is of any good quality. I knew something was up with it when I first saw it. I think I was about 4 when I saw it, because the animation did not look like anything I'd ever seen before. It didn't look like Scooby-Doo. It didn't look like Looney Tunes. It didn't look like anything by Hanna-Barbera. None of that. And I was fascinated by it. And the stories were, so the way the stories were, you have these children who go back, essentially back in time to biblical events, and they interact with some of the characters and whatnot, and they learn a lesson, and they come back, and then that lesson is executed. Like I say, in the grand scheme of things, in terms of children's Christian media, it's probably one of the better things that I've ever seen, because I can definitely give you some clunkers, like the Donut Man, which that is a whole, that's almost cultish. I don't recommend you look that up, the Donut Man and the Donut Repair Club. That's a level of woohoo that I don't think most people are ready for, especially the very early episodes when they had more puppets. Colby the Christian Computer is another that I definitely don't recommend. Salty Psalms for Little Praisers, also one I do not recommend. VeggieTales is okay. It was after my time, but I've seen some of it, and it doesn't beat you over the head with its message. And that was part of what I liked about Superbook as I grew up. Like, I was still watching Superbook. I still watch Superbook, the original, because it's like every once in a while I'm just like, yeah, I know this is a Christian, biblical story and whatnot, and I know these things, and I know the tropes, but every once in a while it's just good to watch. But then I look at some of the stuff they slipped in the dubbing process, and it's like, wow, I can't believe they got away with that. I'm surprised Pat Robertson was cool with this. So, it's a solid series, but this is a 2009 reboot. The big change right off the bat is this is CG animation. It's not, the anime style that I was accustomed to, which, again, love the original, but season 2 of the original, that sucked. I don't need to be looking for their dog in Christian times, and it's two of the characters. The original 2 characters don't even go back in time, so it was pointless. Anyway, this new rendition of it is, it just doesn't have the same charm. Not that that's a bad thing, and maybe it's just my nostalgia goggles looking at the original and thinking just how quaint and adorable it was, because the characters are Chris and Joy, and they have this little buddy named Gizmo who goes back with them in time whenever Superbook activates. So in the original, it was they were going through Christopher's attic, and they find this book that talks to them and takes them on these adventures in biblical times.
Who is it?
Long before children had roller skates, they had important jobs to do. This is David tending his father's sheep. Want to meet him? Let's go.
This now it looks like a deranged iPod that, or that robot from Wall-E that was, scanning for plant life on Earth. It looks kind of like that. And so now, because, kids don't open books nowadays, you got to make it like a super tablet or something like that. But super tablet's not that's a title that's not going to work. So this is what you get stuck with, because the thing turns on, it opens up a bit, and then the hologram of a book shows up, and then they get sucked into the adventure. It's a different setting, because it used to be the way the original show opened, it would always be something along the lines of just, in the house that's just down the street and around the corner, we're here at Christopher Peeper's, blah, 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 blah. The narrator would go on and be like, okay, this is adorable, da, 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 da. Yeah, it's fine.
At the house just down the street and around the corner, Christopher Peeper is headed for trouble.
It doesn't have the same kind of charm to that. It doesn't work in the same sense. It's definitely 2009.
You're gonna win for sure!
The animation itself does not look horrible. It has a style all its own, but I'll get into that a little bit later. But anyway, the whole thing opens with Chris playing guitar for Joy, and he can play for her, but he can't play in front of a crowd for this audition.
Come on, Chris. What are you doing?
And one of the first things that went through my mind was my Christian upbringing, like, wait a minute, he's playing electric guitar. We don't do that. So I'm like, I wonder how Pat's dealing with this, if he even reviewed this. So, yeah, that was a little odd. But anyway, the whole thing in the beginning, because again, this thing usually does, there's a problem at home, in present time, and then Superbook drags them into a biblical story that deals with that kind of problem, and then when they leave Superbook, they've learned their lesson and they execute it from there on out. So Christopher has a problem getting in front of a crowd and auditioning to be the guitar for the school band, and he flubs it. He doesn't really get to flub it. He's just nervous because when he sticks the amplifier into his guitar, it screeches, and the first time he even picks a string, it pops, and the school's laughing at him like, I don't really know if that's really anything to be laughable. Of course, the way these kids are dressed, it looks like they're in school uniforms, so it looks like they're part of a Christian school. And if they are fed things like Colby and Salty, that probably to them is like Three Stooges level of comedy. So you've got that. Anyway, he runs out, doesn't want to play the guitar. Superbook kicks up and sucks them into biblical times, with David and Goliath, because this is Superbook, a giant adventure. So it's definitely bringing, might as well just go with David and Goliath. Why not? It makes sense. So, for those of you who don't know the story of David and Goliath, most people know it as through sports metaphors anymore. You have this small child, David, who is, and I was sort of surprised they brought this up in the cartoon, but the prophet Samuel anoints David the future king of Israel, And even though that's happened, he's still a shepherd for his family. And the action sequences, yes, there are action sequences in this of David defending sheep. Like, the first thing, he takes on a lion, which I'm assuming he kills because it looks like he breaks his staff off. And the lion's laying there dead in the aftermath, which that's another thing. And I'm going to really harp on this in a little bit. They don't shy away from saying the word kill, which in most cartoons you don't hear, which I find hilarious.
My brother is going to get himself killed. You're going to die.
I'll slice you open, then grind your bones until they are dust!
Because I remember Deadpool in some cartoon series, we don't say the K word.
Unalive them? Yeah. Here's the thing. I can't really say the K word out loud. It's a weird mental tick.
You don't say dead, but this Christian, this Christian product definitely says kill. Definitely says die. Okay, I don't know who we're thinking about here when this is what you're getting. So, I love mixed messages of people. It's hilarious. But anyway, so he kills this lion, and the kids get sucked back in time, and the first thing they see is a bear. Because David kills the bear with one shot of a slingshot, like right in the jaw. The bear just drops. Has the defensive capability of Glass Joe, apparently. And they openly talk about the fact you just killed that bear.
Whoa, you killed the bear with that? I gotta get me one of those.
Like, yeah, I did. What of it? And the one thing that always irks me about this series and the old series, nobody questions Gizmo. I mean, not even just the language thing, David is speaking native Hebrew, or should be, and then these kids from modern America show up speaking, their English. Not a problem. Not a problem. We're not even going to do this like in Pocahontas where the wind translates for you. It's, I know English. Screw it. But beyond that, and this has always been the bigger thing for me, they never questioned, their clothes, or more specifically, Gizmo. Gizmo is a robot. Okay, now in the original series he was more like a Tin Man and he needed to be wound up and shit, but if I'm an Israelite, I might ask a question or two about Gizmo. Like, what is this?
If you go down there in your armor, they will force you to fight.
Fight? Why, I'm just a poor shepherd boy.
And they don't really, in both series apparently just do this. Yep, that's your friend. Okay.
You're trespassing on this field.
Oh, well, we're strangers.
Sorry. Oh, you're travelers?
But, so, you go through the whole rigmarole of the David and Goliath story. Goliath shows up. He's the Goliath of Gad is this giant that's well over 10 feet tall or something like that. Challenges the Israelite armies. Anybody who can take me in combat. No one wants to do it. But here you have David, this little boy, who's like, yeah, I'll do it because God is on my side. All right. And he convinces, the king, I will slay this giant with God on my side. And you get the action sequence, which definitely wasn't expecting that, but I got one for how he killed Goliath. And here's where the first shot comes in. And it's not a shot of misery. This is a shot of awesome. So in the original story, when David smites Goliath, and he's on the ground, David beheads Goliath with his own sword. They do it in this. It's fucking awesome. It's a full fucking beheading. He has the sword up over his head. Like in the original, in the biblical version, he can barely lift the sword over. But this one, oh no, fuck that. David's got this shit up over his head and he comes down. They fucking do it. They don't show the beheaded body, but he fucking does it. Holy shit. It was impressive. I couldn't believe they went there. That's good shit. I love this. But he does that, and in the course of this whole event, Chris learns from David, you should share your gifts. Because who are you playing for?
People might not like the way I play. Well, who do you play for? Other people? Me, I play for the one that gave me the skill.
Because at one point, they have a jam session. Some version of a lira, I think. David's playing, and Chris mentions that, man, I really wish I had mine, and Gizmo gives it because Gizmo can apparently just store things.
I kind of wish I had my guitar now. Thanks, Giz.
And they have a little jam session, and he's like, yeah, I finally get that idea. It was a little wonky, but it works. And then when the lesson's over, Superbook takes them back, and Chris is now back at the audition, and he plays, and it's apparent that he gets the spot on the high school band, on the school band. Woo! That's what I aspire to. Regardless, it's not the greatest thing. But it's solid. It's not. This is not awful. But it does have its problems. The animation. It is CG, which to me is a step down from classic anime, but that's just me. It's not that bad. But the CG itself, I mean, it's not Trollland or The Star or, well, hell, half the things I've actually reviewed. It's not like that level of bad. It actually has a unique style to it, but that style is, for lack of a better term, overly plastic. Like, everything looks like they're plastic figures and something's going to break if they move too much. So it doesn't quite look right in certain aspects, and then like certain times you'll notice in run cycles that like things just stutter. So it has those problems, but by and large, it's okay. It's got its own unique slant on what it's trying to do, so it works. The story itself, I mean, yeah, you're adopting a biblical story and you're doing your own rendition, so it's not terrible, but there are aspects about it in contrast to the original that do irk me. Like, the one thing I really liked about the original Superbook series was that it didn't get overly preachy. It wasn't so heavy-handed. Yeah, God comes up and things like that, but it wasn't constant reference to God. This throws it around a lot.
What can one child not do when that child goes with God? I play for God. This day, Goliath, the Lord will deliver you into my hands.
Some of it is warranted. You need to have that because of the story itself, but it just seemed like that was way more than what I would typically hear from the original series. So I don't know if they had a God quota they had to set, like we have to say it this many times. So yeah, in that aspect it was a little bit heavy-handed. The way that they intertwined the stories seemed a little contrived. You know, like I can see the angle of what is your obstacle and what your abilities and the obstacle that you have in front of you.
Use the gifts he's given you. You never need to be afraid to play.
So, if God gives you the ability, then the size of the giant or the size of the audience doesn't matter?
Okay, that I can sort of see, but like the musical interlude was like, this is how we're gonna solve Chris's problem. It's a little weak, but it's not the worst. So story-wise, it's okay. I mean, in comparison to everything else that's been on this particular segment, this might be the best thing I've ever watched. You know, but then again, we're only like 4 or 5 episodes in, so I mean, you don't really have much to work with here. But if you even took that, even with what I reviewed, yeah, no, this might be one of the better things I've seen.
Sounds great, Chris!
Oh, another thing that kind of caught me off guard and took me a minute to realize it. Sam Vincent's in this, which, if you're a Pony fan, that's Flim and Party Favor, which was like, I didn't really pick it up until I saw it, saw his name in the credits, but Kathy Westluck is in this. And for those of you who are in the Pony know, that is the voice of Anne Spike, who is Worst Pony. Gizmo is the Worst Pony. Gizmo in the original series, he was a little, he didn't get sarcasm, didn't get the nuances of humor and things like that. And he had to be wound up. Okay, fine. Gizmo in this is basically Spike before Spike.
Fight? Why, I'm just a poor shepherd boy.
He is an annoying fuck. And the sad thing about this is Kathy Westluck is going through Tara Strong syndrome. All I hear is Spike coming out of this robot's mouth or vocal speakers.
Would an attacking bear be cool? Why would a bear attack us? Don't ask me! Ask the bear!
It fucking hurts. It is unbearable at times. It's like I almost yearn for the original Gizmo voice, and it sucked.
It may not be as easy as it looks, so please be careful, Master.
Gizmo's right, you know.
But this made it worse. So, and I love Kathy Westluck, but by God, that was terrible. Whew. Aside from that, it's not bad. Now, I've come to learn that this version of Superbook has way more going for it in terms of content than what the original did. The original had 2 seasons, which in Japan, most people are aware, that's a rarity. Most series in Japan get 26 episodes at best, and then they're done. The original Superbook had 2, and like I've said before, the second season sucked. This is still going, and it had a reboot of the reboot. Apparently, they're now in the 23rd century. I don't understand that. I don't understand where you're going with that, but all right, fine, that's what you're doing. So this version, which to me is lacking in space, in parts, except for the gratuitous violence and saying kill a lot, I don't know if it warrants that much. I mean, you beheaded people. Cool, but yeah, not quite as good as the original, but it has its good moments. Although now I'm curious. They're definitely going to have to cover the creation story with Adam and Eve. And I remember the original with the original Superbook. I can only imagine how they're going to CG Adam and Eve. I may have to find that one for research. But overall, really, it's one shot. The other shot's a shot of awesome. Because the fact that you beheaded Goliath makes this worthwhile. If I recorded the reactions that I'm having as I'm watching this, I literally gave the rocker horns. Like, yeah! Like, that's fucking metal. But other than that, this is... it's bland. It's got its moments. Like beheading and killing, but... it's not the greatest thing, but... it's definitely better than McGee and Me. So... oh... that's my body telling me to wrap this up. So, there you go. Superbook. A giant adventure. As far as I'm concerned, it was an odyssey that really didn't help me learn more than I already knew. And I'm flubbing because I don't have anything left for this. So, there you go. Toodles!